At the top of the map, snow and sea ice stretching thousands of kilometers. Small communities scattered across a vast landscape. It's a place most will never see. And yet, it's at the center of something much bigger. I'm Hannah Thibedeau. This is The Arctic Edge. Right now, the world is looking north, and the stakes are getting higher. One word keeps coming up: sovereignty. It can mean different things depending on where you are. For many Canadians, it's about borders and defense, protecting land, guarding waters. But for Inuit communities, it's far more personal. This season, we're looking at sovereignty from every angle, through the people who live in the Arctic, through the decisions shaping its future, and through this simple question: what happens when sovereignty and national security are shaped alongside Inuit leadership and elected officials? So let's go back to March 2025.
I'd like to see Canada become our 51st state.
We need Greenland for national security and even international security, and we're working with everybody involved to try and get it.
It's easy to see how geopolitics is shaping the conversation about Arctic sovereignty. And navigating that reality right now is Nunavut Premier John Main. We spoke in early 2026. The Honourable John Main, welcome to the program. Let me just first start with, how are communities feeling right now?
Yeah, in terms of the challenges that we're facing across Nunavut, I'd say stressed, concerned.
When the ground keeps shifting, how do the people react? How does the Nunavut government react?
We look to what foundations we have in terms of the relationships that we have with different organizations, existing bilateral relationships with different jurisdictions like Greenland. It's important to remember that we're not alone and that we're not the only ones who are concerned, and that we are in this together with our partners. You
mentioned Greenland. What type of discussions did you have with your partners in Greenland?
The relationship with Greenland is an important one in terms of Nunavut. Obviously, I need to acknowledge as a non-Inuk person that the foundation of Nunavut's creation was Inuit. Long before Canadian government was in Canada's Arctic, Inuit were here. This is the Inuit homeland. The cultural ties between Nunavut and Greenland, there's familial ties when it comes to language, when it comes to trade, areas like fisheries. And that's where recent events like opening consulate in Nuuk through our federal government, those are great to see. It's all about coming together in the face of common challenges and realizing that we have so much in common and that we do want to look out for each other.
Was there a fear that if we're seeing this happen with Greenland, that maybe not militarily, but economically, that Donald Trump would want to try to do that to our north?
There's a mix of emotions in the face of statements or challenges to sovereignty and security. It's not just a one overriding emotion. A mix of bewilderment and confusion. Definitely some anger in there in terms of being fundamentally flawed way of looking at the world. In terms of Nunavut's context, it's important for us to acknowledge that we already are dealing with huge challenges when it comes to daily living at the community level, whether it's access to careers, access to food, access to reliable energy, transportation, the necessities of life. We live in a very challenging environment. On top of all the existing challenges, you add another layer of geopolitical movements or geopolitical disputes. We don't need additional challenges. Things are difficult enough as it is.
What's striking is how personal this feels. The geopolitical noise from the outside world lands differently when you're already dealing with so much at home. And yet there is money on the table. There is federal attention. much of it driven by defense. So the question is simple. Will it reach the people who need it the most?
It remains to be seen if these investments are going to be meaningful at the community level. And what we want to encourage is a balanced view of what's needed. What we're wanting to see as part of that is a realization that you can't just look at the militaristic aspect to Nunavut. You need to look at a holistic view of what it means to live up here, to raise children up here, to become an elder up here. There's a huge need for support in terms of infrastructure in Nunavut, and it's not limited to militaristic areas.
What the Premier is describing is something you hear again and again from Inuit leaders. Security in the Arctic isn't just military. It's a road, clean water, a home, power that doesn't rely on diesel. It's the basics people need to live and the foundation for communities to be safe, resilient, and self-determining. This came up at the Arctic Summit in Whitehorse, where we caught up with Harry Flaherty. Today, Harry is a well-known leader in Arctic policy and in business, helping Inuit communities take part in building Nunavut's economy. But before any of that, he was a kid growing up in Grise Fjord, Canada's northernmost inhabited community. His family was among the Inuit families forcibly relocated there by the Canadian government in the 1950s. When asked about the government's renewed attention in Arctic defense, he shared an unforgettable story.
When military started their first exercise back in early days, I was so proud to see the military planes and helicopters, and I said, "Mom, there are the military is doing an exercise." She just looked at me and said, "Where were they when we needed them?" And that always struck very close to my heart, because the hardship they went through and the what they endure is unthinkable. So even up to now, where were they and where are they now?
Where were they when we needed them? That is really hard to hear. But it raises another question. Who gets to define urgency? And who decides which problems deserve a quick response?
This has been discussed in decades, and Ottawa haven't really responded to that. So how do you measure it? I think you measure it by action, getting actually tangible benefit action, meaning that there's a mutual agreement, understanding of both parties, whether you're Inuit or you're Indigenous person from the Arctic or just a Northerner, and Ottawa, to understand that we both understand what the needs are and what are required, and work as a partner to accomplish those infrastructure that's required to say that we have finally have done something for the North.
In March 2026, Prime Minister Mark Carney announced a major commitment to Arctic defense and northern infrastructure.
We're moving forward with an ambitious new plan, backed by more than $40 billion of investments in Canada's North and Arctic. Investments to defend our sovereignty and to deter new threats. Investments to connect, build, and transform Northern and Arctic communities.
A positive step, no question. But money alone won't solve the problem. It'll take insight, expertise, and real partnership with the people who live there.
Canada saying that they are going to take the lead in spending billions of dollars for infrastructure in their Canada's Arctic. Makes you wonder, do you really know how to do this? Do you know how are you going to be able to accomplish what you intend to do? When we talked about security and sovereignty, is that it's not done once in a while. It's a 24-hour life that we live in.
The theme of the 2026 Arctic Summit was sovereignty and investment. One strong idea that came through again and again, that any project, no matter what its main purpose is, can and should deliver multiple benefits.
I like the term triple use for infrastructure, where they benefit they're for military use, local community use, and industry use.
The conference we have here in Whitehorse is a learning experience for all, and it's about time we have a conversation about Arctic security and sovereignty. One of our projects, hydro project in Inuit, was listed part of the major projects. That's a major accomplishment because it's Inuit-led, Inuit-owned, and all of the process of been having to get this off the ground is going to be led by Inuit. So there's a tangible benefit for that, where the revenue or the infrastructure costs will be controlled and distributed within our beneficiaries of this region. And I could tell you right now, if there's any revenue base, as we don't currently have in the north, where the community could benefit through food security or other needs those are tangible needs in the communities, that's a big accomplishment. So I acknowledge the federal government right now for taking the next step in moving forward and identifying one of these projects for us. We are seriously working hard to meet that requirement and ensure that this project will go ahead.
In the north, the challenges are connected, and the idea that infrastructure can serve more than one purpose, from community needs to economic development to national security, is something Premier Main is pushing for.
I'm not going to say that drinking water is more important than reliable power. I can't say that reliable power is more important than health infrastructure. They're all very essential aspects to the infrastructure gap that we have in Nunavut. The most vital viewpoint is one that realizes and looks at all these areas that have been underinvested and looks to rectify that in terms of not wanting to look at a one-dimensional aspect to security, where if we look at the history of colonization and military activity in the north, in Nunavut, first we have to acknowledge that it was very painful and that there were negative impacts. There was literally, a segregation of community and military interests. And that can't be the way forward. We need to realize that these mistakes, negative impacts happened in the past, and we need to commit to not repeating them.
And then, making sure we don't repeat those mistakes of the past, that it can't, am I right in saying that it can't just be singular use? And this is something that we've been talking about a lot at all of these conferences. They use the words dual use and multi-use. It has to do more than just defense.
Exactly. We see huge potential benefits to communities if we can make good on the talk around dual and multi-use infrastructure. It could be things as simple as a gravel pit and access to granular supply. It can be things more complex like drinking water infrastructure. It could be around power generation. It could be around roads, ports, airports. Many of these pieces of infrastructure across Nunavut, they're already dual use. I think that's one of the things we have to acknowledge. We say, dual use, looking forward. Well, let's talk about the pieces of infrastructure that we have in the territory that are already dual use. Let's talk about health infrastructure that exists in Grise Fjord, or health infrastructure that exists in Qolotok, which is our western frontier in Nunavut. That is also dual use. If there's Canadian Rangers operating in a community and there's some sort of medical need, where do they go? They go to the health center that's run by the government of Nunavut.
That's a point worth highlighting. In some of the farthest parts of the country, the responsibility for watching over the land, has often fallen to the Canadian Rangers. And they're drawn from northern communities across the country. It's a shining example of what it looks like when people rooted in Arctic communities work side by side with the Canadian military. We spoke with Jim Welsh, a member of the Canadian Rangers.
So the Canadian Rangers is one of Canada's great kind of northern success stories. This program has been around since the 40s. And what it's done is it's enabled Canada to put money and resources and skills in the north in a really meaningful way. So Rangers instructors come to different communities and they train people, they rent their equipment, they teach them about search and rescue and safety and these kind of things. And this is where Canada has invested in the north in a really powerful and meaningful way. So these communities now, people have snow machines and skimmers and ammunition and the training to use it all properly to keep them safe in the landscape and to be out exploring and be out there so that we know what's going on in the north.
And the need to know what's going on in the north is growing. External pressure is building. Tariffs, political rhetoric, rising attention on Arctic defense. And it may finally be pushing the country towards something it should have done a long time ago. Take the North seriously.
There may be a silver lining. You look at the circumpolar Arctic and you look at Nunavut and you compare yourself to your neighbors. That's just natural.
When you start looking around the Arctic, differences become hard to ignore. Some northern regions have been investing in infrastructure for decades. Take Norway. Across much of the Norwegian Arctic, you see modern ports, highways, and energy systems. Investments that support both communities and national security. And it's not just Norway. Former Yukon Premier Ranj Pillai points to something similar just across Canada's western border.
Just drive across the Canadian border from the Yukon into Alaska. And it's a different story. You know, you drive, whatever, it's 12 hours from Whitehorse, a quick weekend trip to to Anchorage, Alaska. And it's mind-blowing because as you start to get close to Anchorage, it turns into a 4-lane U.S. highway, you know, and then you're driving into a major American U.S. city. And you've just seen the investment that has happened in the state and by the federal government from the United States. And you've got a multitude of military bases that keeps North America safe in that area, universities, big building complexes, hospitality, hotels. You just don't see the same extent in the capitals of the three territories. So it's our friends and neighbors are doing it, and they did it on the same, they were there at the same time. We were all starting to partner with Indigenous communities across the north.
It's been frustrating, and that's where, going forward, we have to get this right. I had the privilege of attending my first Council of Federation meeting in Ottawa. First of all, it was an honor to be sitting around that table. But when it comes to the Arctic, I, did make clear to my premier colleagues that we need their support for investment. We need them to be seeing the potential benefits to the whole country if we can take steps forward in Nunavut. And, it's been quite encouraging so far in terms of the reception to that message. Like, we look at things like international trade and tariffs. And, okay, Team Canada, we're all in the same team. Let's lockstep. That's, it's amazing. Just kind of energy and perspective to have. That same perspective needs to be taken for the Arctic. There's a financial challenge that comes out of the logistical realities of Nunavut. All of our communities are fly in, fly out. All of them have standalone power grids relying on diesel. So anything you're trying to do up here, whether it's open up a convenience store, access cancer treatment, go to school, everything is more expensive. Sometimes can be 10 times as expensive as in the South. And what we need to counteract that is this understanding from the folks that we're working with, understanding of our reality.
We have this sense of urgency right now. What happens if that sense of urgency starts to fade?
Yeah, then that's concerning to me. We appreciate the attention and we appreciate the focus, and we don't want to have Nunavut and the Arctic fade back into the background again.
So we have to keep the focus on the North, what it needs right now and what comes next. I asked Premier Main what he hopes Nunavut and the Arctic look like in 10 or 15 years from now.
Yeah, looking down the road, I think Canada's Arctic sovereignty will be defined by how well the people in the North are doing, whether they're thriving or not. It'll be defined through the health and strength of the communities in the North. And so I sincerely hope that a decade or more down the road, we'll see communities that are thriving, that are strong local economy, strong culture, and just a strong sense of place. We live in, one of the most beautiful places in the world. Yes, there's a lot of challenges that come with that, with living in Nunavut, but there's also so much beauty and so much opportunity. Looking into the future, that's my hope, is that there will be realization of opportunities, and there'll be a vision of a stronger future that, will continue to be developed by the next generation.
For Harry Flaherty, it's personal.
If you were to speak to your mother today, what would you say to her today about how you're feeling about all of this?
My mom was a lady, strong lady with very little words. It was more of action. So every time we went to see our mom, we would say few things and she would just smile and response in the small words. So I always remember, like I said earlier, when I told her that military was here, and when she said, where were they when we needed them? It always stick with me. And if I were to go knock on my mother's door and go in and say, Mom, they're actually here and they're delivering, I think I would probably get a little smile out of her.
A small smile. That's a different kind of progress. But it carries a lot, because for a long time, communities were asked to carry the weight of sovereignty without the support to match. And that history just doesn't disappear. It stays with people. And maybe more of Canada is starting to see that now. That no one does this alone. No single government, no single community, no single company can maintain sovereignty alone. It takes all of them. And it starts by listening to the people who live there, who know what it takes to keep the North strong. Join us this season as we take you inside the real work shaping the decisions, the partnerships, and the people shaping the future of the Arctic. I'm Hannah Thibedeau. See you next time on The Arctic Edge, where the North tells its story.